Clerk Segrist, could please call the roll?
Trustee Anthony.
Present.
Trustee Foster.
Good evening.
Trustee Graham Hudek. Let the record reflect Clerk Segrist is in attendance. Treasurer Slavens.
Good evening.
Trustee Snyderman.
I am present.
And Supervisor Williams.
Hello. Call for a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Call for a motion to approve 2 sets of minutes from May 14th and May 21st, 2019 meetings.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Carries. Now it's time on the agenda for citizens' non-agenda items. Citizens' non-agenda items. Seeing none, call for a motion, Treasurer Slavens, to pay the bills.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion that we pay the bills. Support.
In favor of again paying the bills this month, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. This evening, we have first up is a presentation, human update that's been requested by the board. And Ms. Carrie Conley, our HR manager, is going to lead us through that presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and I'm going to thank you for the opportunity to meet with you tonight and kind of highlight what our department does. When we had our strategic planning, it became apparent that maybe not everybody knows what we do or how we do it, so tonight's kind of a great opportunity for us to highlight what we do within our department, and we'll certainly entertain any questions that you have. I did bring a great team tonight. This is the entire HR department, so I will introduce them a little bit later, but certainly they're the backbone of the operation and help make it all happen. We are HR, that's what we always say to ourselves, and Canton Township Human Resources is really dedicated to providing great customer service. The 7 areas that I'm going to highlight tonight are really key components to what we do every day. We do a lot of recruiting and hiring. We do the wage and benefit administration, employee-employer relationships, professional and organizational development. We maintain the human resource information and management system. We deal with compliance of employment laws and obviously customer service. We don't put it at the bottom because it's last, but certainly is the top thing that we do throughout the organization. So let's start with recruiting and hiring. We call it winning the lottery. When you look at the recruiting and hiring practice, which I'm going to outline in a minute, you'll understand why some people, when they make it through our doors, might think they've won the lottery. And in fact, we've had people tell us that. There was an individual who was hired by the township who had applied for a job 10 years prior. Didn't get the job, came back. The day he walked in the door, he told us, this is like winning the lottery. And he's still enjoying his time here. So employee counts, we have, I've outlined them here with regards to commission members, continuing part-time elected officials, election workers. Obviously, that's a pretty high number. Our full-time is 370. We have 150 part-time, 54 seasonal, and 175 variable hour employees to a total of 1,550. They're not always all active, but we touch every one of those people that they come through here. So we have something to do with each of them, so that's why they're there. Retirements, since 2015, we have 39 employees who have retired. Obviously, that means we'll backfill those positions as we went about. Our full-time hiring process, obviously, is very complicated. Maybe not complicated, but it's very thorough. We have an expectation to hire not just anybody, but to hire the best of the best, and that's what we really strive to. So we go from any employment application selection questionnaires that helps us get to know a lot about who's coming through the door, who may potentially come through the door. We do the screening. There are written examinations, computer assessments, oral boards. For dispatchers, we actually have an observation portion where we actually see they go over and observe what they're doing. We want to make sure it's a good fit. We then do the contingent offers. We do background, pre-background interviews, comprehensive background checks, social media checks, psychological evaluations and testing, pre-employment, medical, drug testing, and new hire orientation. So we do all of that. You get to us, and we'll prepare you to get to your department. So it can be a lengthy process, but we go through a lot to get there. Pre-employment testing, that can be a wide range. It depends on the need of the department and the position we're testing for. And that can be both internal or external, even for promotions. Part-time hiring process is a little bit different. We basically take in the applications, we screen them, for qualifications, and then a lot of coordination with the departments. The departments do the interviewing for their part-time employees, and when they've gone through the individuals that they wish to hire, they've told us that, and then we take the process from there. Right down including the background checks, making sure that they have all their paperwork in line. And we do send anybody who doesn't get the positions turn down letters. So that did come back, that came up at one point. So I wanted to make sure that I included that in this, this process. We do provide support when they're election workers, and there are currently 747 of them. 341 of those were added between 2016 and 2019. Full-time new hires, 125 since 2015. That amounts to about 50% of our full-time staff are new in their position. 2015, that's a lot. There are 120 full-time external, 80 full-time internal promotions, 88 total public safety new hires since 2015, and they're broken out by police and fire, as you can see there. And then we had 49 total full-time separations. They may not have been retirements, but they may have been here, left, gone to other jobs. It depends on the nature, it depends on who it was. Full-time staffing and leadership changes since 2015. These are kind of key positions. So if you look at our organization, fairly young, but yet a lot of change in it, and we've got a pretty good balance. So of course, the supervisor, the treasurer, the clerk. I was new since 2015. We had the IIT applications delivery manager, the public safety director, the police deputy director, the deputy chief, the fire deputy director. So if you look at some of the top key positions in this organization, they're all relatively new in their positions. So it's a huge thing to see when they're all doing very well and that the organization seems to run somewhat most part seamlessly. So it's a credit to all of them in their positions. These are a breakdown kind of the 80 full-time positions and how they fell out in 2015, 16, 17, 18, and now 19. External job postings, that's obviously important to us as well. So we do continuing part-time, full-time, volunteers, seasonal, and variable. You can see there were 347 postings in all, and each of those is the same process that we went through for the hiring, so we post all of those. External applicants, this is where it gets really big. So you can see between 2015 and 2019, there have been 8,388 people interested in working for Canton Township, which is really great to know. So we have not been short. There are some areas we struggle with, and then we change our recruiting opportunities and try to get creative in how we might get people through the door. External recruiting sources. Sometimes people ask, well, where do we get these people from? Where do we post? How do we know? And we do try to find out where people are coming from. So this kind of gives you an idea of where the majority of those people are finding us. External candidate demographics, in case anybody was interested in that. That's kind of the breakdown of our organization as it stands today. You've been selected to join our Canton team, so you've made it through all of that, through the selection process, and now what? So we do the medical evaluations, recertification for DOT, fitness for duty, workers' comp injuries, those types of things are all a part of what we do in our department. Drug screening, we do pre-employment, we do the DOT regular drug screening, we do the random drug testing. All of that goes through our department. It's not farmed out, it's done here. We send them to the pre-employment we do, but DOT stuff we do through here. Full-time orientations, now we've got them in the door and we're gonna onboard them and make sure that they know what our policies are, what our organization's like, what our culture's like. So we hold new hire orientations with everybody who walks through this door. We discuss the benefit options, we help them through their benefits. If they're part-time, they obviously don't have benefits, but when they do, they go through GCN training. We train them on all the key components of, we do a welcome to Canton Township. So we introduce them around the departments, to the elected officials, the directors, and a lot of times to the employees as well when they get here. And then we turn them over actually to their departments. We also do training. We do the new hire onboarding training. We do benefit education. We have people come in who are experts in their areas of expertise to educate our employees and help them make good financial decisions as it relates to some of their retirement benefits. We've done supervisory training, we do interview training, we do mentorship, customer service, situational leadership, and Achieve Global was a previous one that we've done. So we've provided a lot of training to those that are coming on board because we're going to invest in them. They've chosen our community and we're going to position them to be successful. GCN training, we do every year, right about this time, they're all due. So every employee will go through GCN training. We have key areas for them based on their jobs. So not everybody goes through the same training. It's really specific to the job and the nature of what you do as to whether or not, well, I might not have to do ladder safety training because I'm probably not going to be on a ladder. Everybody will do sexual harassment training. So there are some that everybody does and some that others will not do just by the nature of the job.
Current training, I would think everybody sees all but perhaps fire extinguisher? Or
No,
even
you
that
do the
one?
fire extinguisher too. You might
Everybody.
need to
So
use
we-
it. The
I
ones
thought
on the
I
right-hand
saw
side are pretty much, you'll see those throughout the
For
organization.
all employees. Yeah.
Yeah, because if there's a fire, everybody should know how to use the fire extinguisher. In fact, it's always the question, do you know where your closest fire extinguisher is? That's a trick question because most people don't know. Evaluations and employment deployment, so development, we actually do have the opportunity to do performance evaluations with new hires, so we do run them through their probationary period. We have that opportunity. We've expanded that opportunity into the accreditation area. So for police, they're required as a part of their accreditation to have some evaluation process, so they utilize that. In our public works, when they went to be accredited, the union contracts don't provide for or require doing performance evaluations. So we developed what's called an employee development tool. It essentially sits managers and their employees down, talks about what's going on in the organization, what's good, what's not, how they can help them, and how we can help position them to succeed. What are their goals in the organization? What training do they think that they need? And where do they think they want to go in the future? So it provides us a little bit more opportunity to get a little creative and find out how people are doing and really get an honest exchange of information back between employees and their managers. Wage and benefit administration.
Is that two-way? Like, is there feedback to the supervisors?
I think it's only through that communication when they're sitting down to do that evaluation. If I needed something from my supervisor, most of it's used in DPW mostly. I think leisure services might use it a bit too, but it should lend itself to that. I can't attest that it is a full 360, which would be ideal.
I'm not saying one way or the other is better.
No,
I've been in organizations that have done it and haven't done it.
Yes.
And so I was just curious.
Yes. It'd be, ideally, a 360 evaluation is great. You know, having even the customers weigh in on what you're doing is a great idea, but we're taking baby steps to get there. So far, we're doing pretty well with at least getting that tool out there. Wage and benefits, of course, wages are set by the union contract. You guys approve those or the merit policy. All of those come through here, at least the wages do. We do, for those that may not know this, we're self-funded, so that means we do the benefit administration. We just don't write a check off to someone who does the benefits. We also coordinate we have third-party administrators. But there's a lot of work that goes into the benefit coordination and administration. So if someone has a question about their benefits, if they're having trouble with getting a procedure done or they need a referral, those are the questions. We'll get those through our office quite frequently. We manage the benefits and the invoicing. So these are all of the types of benefits that we have. So there's a lot of coordination in making sure that those are in line. Benefit enrollment, we have 375 full-time employees as of May. We have 335 that are in health care plans and 41 that waived medical coverage and received $1,200 health waiver. And they get the opportunity to change during open enrollment or a life event, which is marriage, birth, divorce. So see a lot of it at open enrollment. So that is pretty, where we'll see most of it happen. Although there's a lot of babies sometimes, so it depends on the year. Budget to actual benefits, costs from 2013 to 2018. This graph kind of reflects that at least budget to actual, we have stayed under budget. 2013 was probably the exception. But I think that's a year that a lot of things were going on in the organization and trying to get our hands around where health care would actually end up. You can see there is an increase between 2017 and 2018, primarily due to the fact that it includes OPEB liabilities and you paid down a significant amount of OPEB. So that's what that's attributed to. Open enrollment. We hold a benefit fair for full-time employees each November. Sometimes it's in October. This one was in October this year. We try to do a theme, try to make it engaging, try to get people to come and learn about the benefits and take advantage of the vendors who are there. So we bring in the key people that are providing our benefits. It gives them a great opportunity to put a name and a face. So when I do have a question and I need to call somebody, I've probably at least talked to them or seen them, or maybe I've run into them at the benefit fair. At that event, they're given their benefit packages. They're very comprehensive. They indicate what their rates are, their benefit guidelines. It's a resource that they use throughout the year, so it's a really useful tool for them. Last year we had 200 employees attend, so it's really, it's kind of an exciting time. We bring in something new every year. So this year was taking the fear out of benefits. We've had a casino theme of all in. And we have the Las Vegas sign, so if anybody hasn't seen it, it's in our office. Welcome to Canton Township, so fabulous Canton Township. So those get the employees engaged, and it's an opportunity for us to see them and them see us for something that's good in the world of benefits. This just shows the changes that are taking place that we'll see where the majority of the changes happen during open enrollment. Retiree Benefit Administration, we have 189 current retirees. They are from 7 different union groups, merit employees, and full-time electeds. So we also maintain theirs. Some are they're fully insured, so that's helpful. Not all the prescription is, so you'll see that can fluctuate our costs as well. And we've got more information on retirees' health care in a little bit, but this year we're finishing up a retiree health care audit. We've gone back to all of those retirees, determined what union contract they retired under and what benefits they should be entitled to, and that will help us get to what are the things that we can do in the future. So you can imagine that's a little bit labor intensive. Retiree benefits, again, this is 44 retirees qualified for open enrollment each year to be eligible. It just goes through the eligibility for those who are retiring. Of course, they go through the unemployment or the union contracts as well. We still tie them back to what that was. Short-term disability, probably one of our favorites. Currently there are 12 employees right now on short-term disability. We have a very nice short-term disability plan here at Canton Township. It affords the opportunity for employees who do get injured off the job to be able to recover and get back to work. We do encourage light duty assignments when people can come back, and so we do a lot of coordination with the employee, with the information that we're getting to help ensure that we can bring them back into a safe position. Optical reimbursement, we do that internally. Most of the contracts read it's a $200 per year optical reimbursement for the employee or the employee and their dependents, depending on the contract. There were 346 receipts, $54,000 last year. Employer and employee relations. I put this in here because, well, one, it's what we do a lot of our time, but I think it's important to highlight things that you may never see. Most of these pictures here are taken from a challenge that was given to every department, and every department was given the opportunity to challenge another department to do something that was good for the organization or good for people outside the organization. So there were people who went and helped at like the Open Door Ministry. There were people that raised funds for the Rouge cleanup. There were people that were challenged to help with another department's activities. So it gave them an opportunity to commingle and learn things about the other departments that they probably wouldn't have done. So It was a great opportunity for them to meet people. We had one of the winners of one of the challenges on the bottom right-hand corner of the slide here. There were people on there that had worked in this building and never met each other. They had been here for 10 years in the same building, and there's not a ton of them, but they had never met. So good opportunity to get people engaged. We do an annual Tiger Tailgate, one of our fun events. It's usually better when the Tigers actually play on that day and they're not delayed, but we do have the employees really engage in that. It's become a very popular event for our employees. We do a friendly competition. That's a Go Blue, and well, maybe a little green in there. I was a little partial to the blue. But again, an opportunity for employees. This one, we were pretty excited to incorporate. The DPW folks actually got out and joined us. The top right-hand corner, they built that football toss, painted it, and just, it was a great, and they brought the tailgate, right? So just a good opportunity for people to get out and something outside of their normal day-to-day, but to get to interact with people. Labor relations, probably an area I spend a great deal of time. Contract negotiations, the administration of those contracts, anytime there are grievances. If there's mediation, hostile work environments, harassment claims, employee safety, all of those are included in what I'd call labor relations. The right-hand table just is to show you how many employees we have in each of those unions. The Merit Commission, obviously you know, is created by an ordinance. It was updated in 2017, and obviously it oversees the non-union group, the hiring, promotions, reclassifications, and factoring. As the HR manager, I serve as the personnel director to them and the secretary for the Merit Commission, and there are 83 Merit employees. Employee engagement. We work to create opportunities for employees to build relationships. We give opportunities for them to help improve the lives of others, as I kind of talked about it before. And then we recognize, employees and try to create fun-filled events. So professional and organizational development. I touched on this a little bit before when we talked about training. But we do the leadership training, customer service, individual employee development. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching and mentoring to help people gain valuable knowledge in order for them to excel in their jobs. We review internal operations of department and assist and improve and enhance their operations. So, human resource information systems management, that's the coordination of all of those things. It's the training, it's the performance evaluations, it's recruiting, it's the personnel, it's the payroll, it's the people administration, leaves of absences, compensation and benefits. We do the step increases, the terminations. There's a lot of behind-the-scene things that go into getting a person here, keeping them, their records maintained so we know, what they've done in the course of their history here. We do that in cooperation with the finance department. Compliance with employment-related legislation. This is obviously workers' comp, unemployment, workers' comp administration reporting. We do have a third-party administrator, but we're the ones who will coordinate with the employees. We follow up on what are the dates of their next appointments. We try to ensure that they're getting the treatment that they need and that they can come back to the workplace in a way that will make them, that they're not going to have another incident. So we really do care about the safety of the employees and making sure that they get the care that they need to be back on the job. Workers' compensation claims, this is kind of a look at what they've looked like. 2018 was a very difficult year. So every one of those claims comes through us, but you'll see in a minute what those claims were really attributed to. And for the most part, they were contributed to exposed to. So they were exposed to something. A lot of times that will be in public safety where they're exposed to something through prisoner contact or some other means. ADA accommodations. These are some of the types of things that we already deal with. We have driving restrictions, we have physical restrictions, modified work schedules, shaving deferments. There are some specialist clearance that we need, reassignments, acquiring equipment and modifying workspaces are all included in things that we have done probably more recently. The ADA transition plan, the draft plan was prepared. We had a public input meeting was held. From there, we held a small group meeting. Those meetings will continue with that small group. We found it to be very beneficial and the input valuable. Website compliance committee was assigned, and as we're going through the technology, I think they're doing some updates and some improvements in that. There are a group of individuals who are working to assist us and make sure that that is as compliant as we can be. And I think that I think you guys approved some money to put into that whole effort not too long ago. Next will be a study session. We'll set with the board and then look to adopt the plan. We're continuing to implement the items that are in the plan because they're the things that need to be done. They've been programmed in, they're in the budget, and there's a schedule to get those things completed. Interestingly enough, there are a lot of places that don't have their ADA transition plans in place, and while we might think we're delayed in getting ours there, I've had a number of people call me, like, what have you done? How are you doing it? So it is nice to see that we've got it out there. Very few in Michigan have it, but certainly a very valuable tool, and I think that it will be helpful going forward. Unemployment claims, we do get some of those. We obviously have the monetary determination, protesting of the claims, which happens quite frequently, and then disputing fraudulent claims. We did have a big episode of those a few years back, where we had quite a few fraudulent ones coming through here. So that was a lot of coordination, a lot of times with the employee to make sure that they know, because they know, because we were still active and working here. So it was a big scam that was going on throughout the region. So that obviously lands for someone to take care of, so we do that. Family medical leave, obviously that's another law that we abide by. We currently have 25 employees utilizing family medical leave, and obviously we administer it based on the federal guidelines. We do the 1095C processing. Those are required. Again, it's related to health insurance for employees and their dependents. So these are due by March 4th of every year. So some people are preparing W-2s. We're working on the 1095Cs. Required reporting and community surveys. So we do have things that are required that we actually do some of the reporting on: Affordable Care Act, the Workers' Compensation annual reporting. We do participate in surveys at Conference of Western Wayne because it's something that is beneficial to us when it comes to contract negotiations or understanding what benefits are across the board. If we participate, we generally get the information back, which is helpful. So we're not all trying to spin our wheels and do the same thing and repeat it over and over. And then obviously the OPEB liability reporting. Customer service, as I said, number one priority is to ensure that our customers have excellent customer service. We're the place that people go when they need something. It's a family crisis. It's something not working with their supervisors. It's the first face they see when they come to get a job. So with Canton Township, so it's really important for us. We also provide accreditation support. So while every department is being accredited, for the most part, these four here, there are a lot of items that they need, whether it be policies, postings, historical information that is also required of our department to provide them in order for them to get reaccredited. So there's a lot that goes on there. A lot of administrative support to make all this happen, so each of the employees are valuable in that. Obviously the in-person counter help, the answering of phones, resolving and forwarding concerns. We take a real pride in being able to respond to people quickly and with as much information as we can. We've cross-trained where we can in key areas so that we have a diverse group that can answer questions as they come up. So when people come there, they don't leave walking away thinking, well, gosh, that was a waste of my time. So we never want to see that happen. We do employment verifications. Of course, those come through every so often as people are, trying to buy houses and things like that. And we do, again, talk about community and benefit surveys. So what's on the horizon that we haven't already talked about? The ADA transition plan, I just put it there again because that's probably the next thing you will see from us. Maybe the next one you'll see too, or maybe it's a few slides in, but the ADA transition plan we would like to get adopted, and I think we're pretty close to being able to come before the board. One of the things that we're also looking at, and we've looked at for a while, we aren't comfortable until we've got all the answers to the questions that we've had. But the future of retiree health care. I mean, you saw the millions of dollars we spend in healthcare costs, but we're evaluating the opportunity to move to Medicare, moving Medicare eligible retirees to Medicare Advantage. Our population is 144 members, and we think that there are a number of benefits to them. We have looked at many plans that we put them side by side to the plans that they currently have to see really what will be the impacts of them. And there are a few things we're still getting information on, but for the most part, it puts us into, it shifts the risk from the township really to Blue Cross and Blue Shield, which will help us maintain our costs and not reduce their benefit levels. So it seems to be a good way to go. Right now, the estimated annual savings is about, it's over $100,000. That exact number, we don't have the exact number. It will always depend because we have, differences in claims each year, but went somewhere. Okay. So that certainly has some impact on what we're looking at in the future. So we will be prepared to come and have a discussion on that, and I don't know if we do it in a study session, but somehow have that discussion and look for direction from the board as to whether or not we head in that direction. We feel pretty comfortable that we have set those benefits up so that they really do mirror what they're having now, and in most cases that's equal or better benefits. So a compensation study for the merit employees, that study has not been done since 1999. The areas to be reviewed is obviously the wage scale, the internal promotions and reclassification process. There's a factor analysis. So if someone comes and says, I think I'm doing a job that's higher classification, I actually factor those positions, determine where they fit within the organization. We've had internal and external candidate compensation. They're going to look at those reviews. Sometimes you'll see in organizations that it's not always beneficial coming in as an internal candidate as opposed to being an external candidate. There's pros and cons with that. Obviously, coming from the outside, you have a diverse background. You may bring something to the table that is outside of what Canton Township may have. But we want it to be a fair process. Not that it's not fair now, but the process we currently have can be a little more complex than it might need to be. The other thing we struggle with is executive level positions. We have found that in the more recent years that some of the executive level positions, we're bringing people in not at the start of our salary ranges. They're falling somewhere else, primarily due to the market. So it's important for us, and we've seen this reoccur, and I think it's time, well, probably past due time, but time to, and we've budgeted, so just by the way, we did put money in the budget. I don't know that it will cover the whole plan. There are, as we said, there's 83 merit employees. The executive group, those that are managing at a grade 10 or above, 10, 11, 12, 13, are those, there's about 26 in that group that we've tended to have more challenges with than any of the other groups. So we will look at the whole group, but we may start with an executive group first and see how that works out. I will give the option in the RFP to designing it however it is most cost effective. More fun for HR. It's the year of labor relations and negotiating 3 contracts, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But AFSCME, TPOAM, and FIRE are on the agenda for this year. They'll all expire in December of this year. So we're also in the process of updating the merit policy, which has not been done in a very long time. It's a comprehensive project. We have taken all of the edits that have been made, the changes that have made over all the years, trying to incorporate those all into a document instead of just as exhibits, so somebody has to go to 30 different places to figure out what you're really supposed to be administering in that benefit plan or in that policy plan. What we hope to see in the merit policy too is to have a merit policy which lays out how we actually operate, how we hire, those processes, and then has a component for benefits. So the back portion of it would be benefits, so that it's easy for people to find, it's easy to update, and we'll be able to determine what may need to change in probably an easier format than we have in years past. Right now, it's in need of some help, but we've got a plan, and so far, I think that's working pretty well. I think we'll get a good product out of it when we're done. And then the ethics committee gets underway. I do have a role in that. That's obviously the clerk's baby, but we do have a part in that, and certainly are looking forward to getting that underway. So I'd like to thank you again for the opportunity to highlight Canton Township Department. And
Record amount of time.
I know I told you it wasn't going to take forever.
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
blown
trying,
away.
but
That's a lot of material very quickly. Okay, outside of current contract discussions, which we're going to go into closed session, is there any general questions anybody may have at this point for Kristen, Karine? Yeah, go ahead. We'll start at the
You want to start,
summer.
Summer?
We'll go down the line.
okay.
Thank you very much for your presentation. It was very comprehensive. I do have a few questions. You mentioned at the beginning of the presentation about the diversity of the staff at Canton Township. And I was wondering specifically, how is that measured? Do we measure it?
We will, do you want to answer that, Barb? So the slide I showed was from our
Yeah, it was external
our
applicants.
external applicants.
Yeah.
So we'll know that coming in. I don't know if they voluntarily provide that information to us.
It's the EO section.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not available to us.
Right.
For reviewing the application, but you can get it on the back end after the application process is completed.
So I'm not asking about the application process. I'm wondering specifically of people that are hired in. Do we have that data somewhere?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We do it all the time for the accreditation process.
Okay. And do we measure categories besides race? So do we look at like gender identity, sexual orientation, religion, disability?
Don't ask those questions. We can't ask those
Okay.
questions, so no, we don't measure those.
Okay. I know that you can't, well, sometimes people can self-disclose if they choose to once they're hired in, right?
Sure,
Yeah.
and when that happens in the organization, that's the choice of that particular individual, yes.
Okay.
But we don't track it to say now this person is disclosed, whatever, we can't do that.
So, I mean, I guess I'm just thinking as we, are looking to hire a diverse staff that's representative of our community at large, we want to make sure that there's a way to measure success in that area.
I understand.
Thanks for bringing this forward. It was a great presentation. It was really nice meeting all of you. Can we get an electronic copy
Yes.
of this so I
Yeah.
can go through it? You appropriately went through it very quickly because we
know.
don't have a lot of time. I'd like to take a look at it. I was surprised that the number one source for applicants now is Indeed. That's,
Is.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I didn't see LinkedIn on the list. Is that not something that we use? I know.
Less
It's
than 1%.
less than 1%, really? Okay.
It's tied closely with our online application system.
Oh, is it?
We have an agreement together, so anything we post gets pushed to Indeed without being charged to the township.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I know that a lot of people I know also use LinkedIn, so I was surprised that they both weren't up there. But what a different world it is than it
Right.
was 5 years ago, probably, in that way. I'll go through it and see if I have any other questions, but otherwise, it was very well done. Thank you.
No questions, but great presentation. Thank you.
Does the background investigation, pre-employment
The police department does.
piece? What are some of the things that would disqualify an applicant?
Ooh,
Would you have to,
being
would a misdemeanor conviction disqualify? Or
it will depend on the position that they're applying for. Yeah, it will depend on the position that they would hold.
is race, gender, or age ever taken into consideration in an employment application process?
No, we don't know that coming in. We don't evaluate that, and we don't use it as a basis for screening.
Summertime employees or part-time, if they are approved this year, would they automatically, if they apply, be selected for the following year, or is it a whole new process all over again?
There's two parts to that question. The first one is not necessarily, and the second part is there is a streamlined version for people that we would like to come back. So while you may have applied and you may have worked for us, we may not be interested in your services next year for whatever reason. In that case, they would not be automatically invited back to hold a job. So if they are invited back, we do have a condensed version of the process for them so that they're not having to go all the way back through the process.
Is every employee given a random drug test? No?
Random drug tests are given to DOT operators. That's required. So they fall in that pool. We don't have any. Some communities will have random drug testing in their union contracts. That's not the case here. DOT drivers are required to. We do have the ability to test for reasonable suspicion, though.
You give one for a new employee coming on, regardless of...
New employee goes for a drug test, a full-time employee, yes.
If an allegation of drug abuse came to your attention, would you administer that drug screening test?
If there was a reasonable suspicion, we would follow through on that.
Good job.
Thanks, great job. I wanted to wait to get there. Everything before I answer your questions.
That's good.
Nice meeting all of you also. So how many, you already answered this one. So in terms of external jobs, you had external jobs. How many were actually hired externally rather than movement from the inside?
Well, let me go through that process first of all. We won't go to the outside unless we don't have an internal applicant, or if we don't think we have more than one internal applicant, right? So most often, for a merit employee, we might post internal and external at the same time. That happens because you never know whether or not that employee is going to actually apply. We won't always know if we have a qualified internal applicant when it comes to that. But for TPOAM or AFSCME positions, they all are required to go internally. So we always post internally for them. And then if there is not a viable candidate, we will go external. So that is the process.
But didn't we just, with the one marketing rep, didn't we post that externally, but then we hired internally instead? Didn't we move somebody?
We did, and we had that one fell into a unique situation, so not all employees, so there's a merit employee, and that employee was not in the merit. Merit? No. Yes, they were in merit. So it was a merit versus a TPOAM employee. So we did not have any merit employees that we felt met the qualifications of the department. So it was, because you're dealing with each union by themselves, the merit not being a union, but non-union, there were no internal applicants for within the merit group that would have met the qualifications. So it was posted external, and internal applicants go through that same process at the same time. So that's how that came out. So we did end up interviewing internal and external at the same time. We do end up with an internal applicant. However, that's the process. The process was that it was a merit employee. There wasn't a merit individual in there. Had we had a merit employee at maybe a lower level that would have fit the criteria, then we may have posted it internally and not had to go to the outside.
Does that happen a lot, or is that unusual?
For merit employees, merit positions, they tend to be ones that require a lot more, they have more qualifications and requirements. So it is not uncommon for us to go external, but we do try to do internal before going external. It doesn't always happen, it just depends on the position. So for instance, the MSD director position, we did external, internal at the same time because we didn't know who may or may not apply. We knew what the candidate pool was internally, and so we allowed them to apply with the external candidates. It streamlines the process instead of going through one and then going through the other, and it really gets us the opportunity to look at a really wide range of candidates and try to provide and fill the positions with the best qualified candidate to serve Canton Township.
Okay, I'm just wondering, have you ever looked at things like flex time or shared jobs, anything like that? Have you ever considered anything?
So flex time, we do have it. It does exist within the organization. And it exists most often in leisure services because it's the area that can work
Offices?
that type of schedule. In offices, it really is dependent on what's happening within the department. We don't have a ton of employees, so be able to maintain the operations of the department, we look to the department heads to know what is most beneficial for the department. So there have, for the most part, flex time is administered usually in the leisure services group more so than anywhere else. Yeah, and you have to remember, we work with the union contract. The union contract is specific on what the hours of the operation are of the township. We do have flexibility with the AFSCME contract, which allows us to flex a 2-hour period of time for a period of time. So they're very specific on how those operate. So you'll usually see the flex time probably more often with your merit employee group because there's not somebody backfilling their job when they're not there. So different level of employee.
The marijuana law is changing. I'm just wondering. I know that we still do not allow it, correct? But
Correct.
If somebody has a medical marijuana, what is the status of that? If they have medical marijuana,
Medical marijuana, we have a zero tolerance policy, and we still follow the federal guidelines, which would say that we have a
DOT
zero
driver,
tolerance.
no.
Everybody. It's not, our zero tolerance is just not for DOT, it's for everybody in the organization. The only ones who get randomly drug tested are the DOT folks, or for reasonable suspicion, but
for benchmarking, what's in your study? When would that be available? The one that you're doing the worker compensation. You said they had not been looked at since 1999.
oh, the merit policy, I have to get the RFP is not even out on the street yet, so that will happen sometime this year.
Coming from the board when it gets kicked out.
Yeah, so the expense will require it to come before the board. So we'll put an RFP out there, and it will make its way through the board.
What is your diversity training? I mean, I don't remember. Did we take that when we first started? I don't remember.
Diversity training that we do provide.
What is that, like just cultural competence, or is it, what kind of diversity training is it?
It's
And Anne Marie, you can come.
yeah,
in and
it's
take
through
it.
GCN. It's a program that's
take it.
yeah, you
Set
can
you up.
take it. We could certainly provide it to you if you'd like.
So I just wonder, is it like cultural competence, or is it mostly just people think different ways, and
I think it's a little bit of, it probably touches on a little bit of everything. And I think we're looking at trying to make some changes and look at that even deeper. I mean, we use GCN, but we're looking at opportunities to look at diversity. And as we went through the ADA transition plan, we looked at, that also being an area that we needed to improve maybe our education and our training to our employees. So I think there's a crew currently working on a video for that. So that will be coming out sometime this year, I'm going to hope.
I know a lot of our police and fire have gone to the faith houses to learn about the different cultures and the interface with different organizations. Even the school teachers, they're going there and they're bringing them into their classroom to learn. So I mean, that's an opportunity also, having some of the diverse groups come here and talk about some of their cultures and and because
Done that through lunches, and we'll continue.
Lunch and learns.
All right, thank you, thanks.
Make a motion to go into closed session, or call for a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board go into closed session for the purposes of, I believe, a union contract or contract negotiations.
Overview, yes.
Second.
The motion is presented, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Closed. Gentlemen. Good evening, everybody. Wait for Diane. Give her a second. She went through this. Okay, we'll give her a sec.
Wendy today?
No. Shouldn't be. I'd like to call for a motion to move from closed session to open session.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor of the motion is presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is we have a public hearing. Consider the approval of the Leisure Services 2017 5-year Park Master Plan amendments. We will have a motion to call for a motion to go into open public hearing for comment on the Leisure Services 2017 5-year Park Master Plan amendment to pages 80 through 89.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that we open the public hearing at 7:26 PM.
Support.
Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
That, I think we'll turn it over to you, Mr. Owenberger.
Really, what we're looking for is just any additional public comment or any board comment on the amendments to the 5-year capital plan within the master plan. We've made a few modifications, added a few things that will help us should we pursue any grants for future projects within the master plan or the capital plan as presented.
Public comments. Are there any public comments? Seeing no public comment, are there any board questions or comments regarding the updates to the master plan for leisure services? Okay.
I'll just say one thing. So this board didn't approve the master plan. I think it came out just before the last election, or maybe we did. It was around the time that this board sat. So I don't know if we've been.
And when did you all start?
One thing, we started November of 16, and I think it said October of 16 it was approved.
Sounds correct.
So at some point, it might be good just for a review of, even if it's just like more of a summary. I saw the links to it on the website, and we can go
Right.
read it. And then the new park is Liberty Park? I can't remember. Is that, or Patriot Park? Patriot Park.
Patriot Park, yes.
Were there any changes to that in this?
No.
No, okay,
No.
so that's all still what we,
Absolutely. So we added some things like, there's been a lot of discussion about a skate park after the presentation we had in here. We
Right.
didn't have that in here, which would mean that should we decide to choose to move forward with a skate park or anything like that, we wouldn't be able to apply for DNR grants because it's not in our master plan.
Perfect.
So we added
Okay.
those types of things that we've gotten input on into our master plan. We did do a survey online for folks, any public that wanted to provide some input to this, as well as with staff. So it's just minor tweaks at this point to make things grant eligible, should we choose to go in that direction. This year, we are doing our statistically valid community-wide survey in partnership with the library again. We just got our RFPs back. We do that every 5 years, and that's always the year prior to starting the master plan process again. So next year, we would be due to undergo a thorough master planning process again to start the next 5-year plan.
I noticed in here it said some of this was a result of a survey of the public, so was that just a mini online something?
Yes.
Or- Oh,
Yep.
okay. See,
We did get over 100 responses to that, which
Oh,
is
okay.
fairly good for an online survey.
thanks.
Punchline should have opened up with that is, we've added items to allow us to apply for grants in the future. That's what the change is to the master plan.
That's primarily the purpose of these changes.
Thank you.
Questions? Call for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
Aye?
Aye.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve those pages.
Support.
Here, the motion is presented. Please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we move on to, we've got a single item for the consent calendar.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the consent calendar as presented with item C1, consider approval of MDOT permit for Michigan Avenue welcome sign replacement.
Motion is presented. Please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G1, consider final approval of Park Creek Planned Development District, preliminary approval of the site plan for Park Creek condominiums.
Right. Mr. Supervisor, I move that the board adopt the following resolution. The approval of the final planned development and preliminary site plan for Park Creek of Canton site and detached condominiums, whereas the project sponsor has requested final approval of the planned development for Park Creek of Canton and preliminary approval of the site plan for Park Creek of Canton site and detached condominiums on property located on the northwest corner of Beck and Geddes Road, and whereas the Planning Commission reviewed the final planned development agreement preliminary site plan for Park Creek of Canton and voted 8-0 to recommend approval of the request as it meets all applicable criteria for a planned development and the site design guidelines of the zoning ordinance. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Charter Township of Canton, Michigan does hereby grant final approval of the Park Creek of Canton planned development and preliminary approval of the site plan for Park Creek of Canton site and attached condominiums on the tax parcels listed as proposed, subject to any and all applicable state and local development regulations.
Support.
In summary, the applicant proposes to locate 75 site condominiums and 91 detached condos, total 166 units on approximately 89 acres located at the northwest corner of Beck and Geddes. I think this is the third time we've seen this. The property was previously part of the Charing Cross Planned Development District and has since expired. Road connections will be made to Charing Cross as well as Geddes and Beck roads. Each planned development district is required to demonstrate definite benefit to the community. The project sponsor proposes to maintain a 9.3-acre private park at the northwest corner of Beck and Geddes on the 38.10 acres of general common open space for a total of 57% open space. Park includes a fitness area, playground, park trail, roadway, landscaping along with edges of the park. Part of the concept plan that was included in the deck, the agreement outlines the improvements. The sidewalks will be installed along Geddes and along Beck Road north to connect the sidewalk entry to Charing Cross condominiums, including a pedestrian bridge crossing Fowler Creek on Beck Road. Based on the traffic analysis, MI Homes is also proposing to improve the intersection of Beck and Geddes by adding a left turn phase signals to manage traffic at the intersection, in addition to any lane improvements normally required by Wayne County at each of their entrances. Also described in the package, and I don't know if Anne Marie wants to add anything else from the last planning.
Well, basically like what you're saying, Pat, basically the sidewalks are there, the bridge is there. We didn't get a lot of people that had issues with it at all. We even talked about improvement right there at the intersection, but even improvement further down on Beck and Michigan. So the westbound Michigan Avenue will have a light there. There was still a question about the eastbound because most people flip around there. And with the traffic coming there and even to get across to Arctic Edge, so we asked about that study, so that was passed on to State Rep Christy Pagan. But basically, we've seen it a couple times already.
Questions, comments?
I like that it's connecting the sidewalks going down Beck all the way to the corner now, so it looks pretty. I don't know if it's complete all the way up to Cherry Hill, but it completes where that bridge is, which has always been a difficult area.
Today, we're going to have coffee, Steve, and you're going to explain to me the sidewalk fetish that you have.
He rides a bike.
He likes it. He likes his
I like
don't know
it.
what it is.
It's too long to discuss here, so John, I'll invite you. I'll come by your office.
Seeing no other comments, Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Very good. You have a good night. Item G2, consider approval of an extension of contract with ARC Document Solutions for continuation of Phase 2 of Building and Inspection Services Division Document Scanning Project.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve an extension of the professional services contract with ARC Document Solutions for completion of Phase 2 of the Building and Inspection Services Document Scanning Project in an amount not to exceed $30,000.
In March 2018, the board awarded Phase 2 of this 5-year project to ARC Document Solutions of Clawson, Michigan. ARC has performed well under the first and second phase of the project and has offered to extend the unit prices to the township at completion of Phase 2. Staff is recommending approval of the contract extension to ARC Document Solutions of Clawson, the amount not to exceed $30,000 for the completion of Phase 2. This would leave $10,000 remaining for ARC to begin scanning Phase 3, $10,000 for any supportive expenses of Phase 3 for Curie Works, and $5,000 needed for software and hardware. And this is an ongoing effort to modernize our hundreds of thousands of documents that we have in our system. Get them online so we can share them easily, more readily. Any questions, comments? It's just ongoing of what we've been working on for a couple of years. Okay, seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G3. Consider approval of budget amendment and award purchase order contract to MTech for the purchase of a Gap Vax combination sewer cleaning truck.
This is in the form of two motions. Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the following budget amendment, increase expense to the capital outlay vehicles account in the amount of $465,551, and a decrease in expense to the transfer to fund balance on the amount of $465,551.
Our Public Works staff cleans and inspects the township's 360 miles of sanitary sewer on a 5-year continuing cycle. In order to provide the necessary level of service, several sewer cleaning trucks are necessary. Our 1999 Vactor unit has exceeded its serviceable life and is due for replacement. The Gap Vax combination sewer cleaning truck is to be purchased from MTech as a sole source supplier of the Gap Vax from Cleveland, Ohio. This item has been accounted for in our 2019 water and sewer rates recently adopted by the board, so there's no additional budget request at this time.
Is that a diesel vehicle? Does anyone know? It is? I think so.
I would gotta believe it is, it being that large of a system. But let's see if
Wondering if we can, there's that one grant that's out there for diesels. That might help. Yeah, this is the DERA. So if you replace an older diesel with a newer diesel, you can get some funds. They'll pay a portion.
Oh, there.
find it.
Yeah. Fuel type diesel.
Diesel.
Look at that.
All right, so let us take a look also at the grant specifically with Bob.
R8's a federal grant. They're trying to get rid of the old diesels, so. Oh yeah, there's a picture of it.
Bob up, but he said if you guys get him the truck, he'll let you go for a ride in it.
The old one or the new one?
New one.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yes, please, Mike.
I think that this is a fantastic agenda item. I'm definitely in favor of this. We were able to see a reduction in water rates this year, even after we accelerated this $500,000 purchase into this year, which we were budgeted in 2020. So I think that that's good forward insight. One of my concern was we were going to see a reduction last year, a reduction this year, only to have to go through and potentially see an increase next year. Now, we don't know what's going to happen next year, but we will obviously have a $500,000 expense we don't have to realize next year, which is going to help us ideally with next year's water rate. So I think this is good, sound budget planning and good on the water rates, and I want to applaud the township and the appropriate departments for doing their due diligence here. Well done.
Wendy and Bob, Steve did a good job, absolutely. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the first motion as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. On the second motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I further move to award a purchase order contract to M-Tech for an amount not to exceed $465,551 for the purchase of a Gap Vax combination sewer cleaning unit.
Second?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on, item G4, consider approval of security system upgrades for the township facilities.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve interstate security at 51233 ORO Drive in Shelby Township, Michigan, 48315 for the upgrade of security camera systems at the Administration Complex, Summit on the Park, and Canton Sports Center buildings in the total amount of $121,885 to be paid from the following accounts. Summit on the Park account number for capital outlay computers and equipment in the amount of $30,000. Capital Sports Center account number listed for the capital outlay in the amount of $20,000. Facility Maintenance Capital Improvements account number for capital outlay in the amount of $54,585. And finally, Public Safety account number listed for the Omnibus account, for Omnibus Forfeiture account in the amount of $17,300.
Canton Administration Building, Summit on the Park, Canton Sports Center buildings receive many visitors throughout the year. Based on the active nature of the buildings, management staff are often confronted with many issues that could be resolved through more security resources. These conditions require the township to outfit the building and staff with security cameras to ensure security and safety of both the participants and the employees. Canton Township currently manages its security through a contract with Interstate Security for design and upgrades for the security camera systems. Staff from Leisure Services, Finance, Public Safety have set goals regarding camera images being distributed and stored in a manner suitable for the size and complexity of the security needs. Interstate has provided quotes, which you see attached here. The new system will allow for a controlled image distribution and storage program that will provide viewing by public safety of the cameras throughout the facilities. Are there any questions for either Greg or Josh on this item?
The $17,300 forfeiture funds, I assume, so those are federal funds, and I assume that we're meeting every requirement that we are obligated to do so with those. All right, I would expect nothing less.
No other questions or comments? Those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And I believe that concludes our formal presentation, general items. Is there any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing no public comment. Any board or the staff? We've got Leisure Services coming on fast, hot and heavy.
Yeah, we're less than 3 weeks out from Liberty Fest, believe it or not. So we had the Memorial Cup last weekend, tournaments every weekend at the Sports Center, Farmers Market. We're hot and heavy.
Finally got weather that's pretty good.
We could get the rain to hold off, that would be great. Fields are definitely saturated.
Equipment for the carnival rides coming in that is going to be a nightmare if it's still as muddy as it is today or as soft as it is today.
Try and learn some lessons from years ago when we brought them in on the soft ground and do some pre-planning to get some gravel in or mitigate the damage, the potential damage to the fields that we will see from that. But that's
busiest time of the year for not only Leisure Services but public safety as well in terms of people coming to town and participating.
And soccer tournament.
It was very busy. Things held up fairly well. We dodged a bullet with the weather on that one. It was the forecast looked much worse than what we received. So the partnership with a soccer club and public safety support out there really helped us have a great weekend.
Were there any thoughts to Denton Road during that soccer game? I made a big mistake myself on Denton Road.
Over the weekend? Yeah.
My thoughts are avoid it. I don't know. I know public safety does their best to control the traffic in and out of there as much as possible, but there's just so many people coming and going and crossing the streets. It's a challenging area that weekend.
You even have people camping there. How do you handle that? Do you let so many people park their RVs for the weekend?
Yeah, it's primarily the soccer club.
Partners in the event are providing 24-hour security.
Yeah, they offer, there's a small, there's probably less than 15 campers total, 15 or 20, I would say at the most. But primarily it's the soccer club staff that are there. Specifically from that, that's kind of part of our overall youth sports agreement. We get, I believe it's $20,000 a year from the soccer club, but they also provide a lot of the field maintenance. So all the goals out there are owned and maintained by the soccer club. They also do all the field striping. They roll the fields for us, which helps a lot of the other sports groups. So they do a lot of the maintenance for us. They brought in a couple train loads of gravel to upgrade the parking lot the gravel parking lot prior to this, so they do contribute a fair amount, and we're always in discussions with them about other capital projects that we can work together on.
Vendors that are there, that's handled by the club?
Correct.
Whatever profits made off that,
That's correct.
No longer the Canton Soccer Club, it's now associated with the Detroit Football Club West. So the Canton group is Detroit Football Club professionals.
Right.
I was recently, last week, awarded a certification for, I'm now a certified Michigan municipal clerk, which is in kind of an accreditation which is offered after 3 years of professional development. And I say that less to toot my own horn, but more to let the township know that there are some people whose philosophy, there's no requirement when you're elected clerk to do any professional development at all. Literally winning an election for most people is what it is required of being a clerk. But there is a substantial difference between clerks who go to institute, who go to conference, who get certified, and those who don't. And I think in the future, whoever your clerk may be, I hope this community demands that they be a certified Michigan municipal clerk and go on that track, because you develop relationships with people throughout the entire state. You exchange best practices, and I don't know how you could meet the challenges of running an election without doing that kind of professional development or education. So to that end, I just want to thank the community for investing in me, allowing me to get my certification, and I look forward to the 2020 election and all that good stuff.
Can we help you with the publicity release? Because I think it's important the community know the amount of effort that you put into development and gaining the skills you have.
That would be fantastic. My assumption is that this year Treasurer Slavens will probably become a certified treasurer as well.
Yes, in fact, I just finished my class as well, and awaiting my certificate as well.
So maybe we should both sit down with Kristen Thomas and work on something?
Please do.
All right. Other than that, have we talked about the road work yet that's going on outside publicly?
Which?
Ours?
We did last time, but
Okay.
Josh, any comments? Okay.
I want to make a quick comment. I went to the Memorial Day ceremony on Monday. It was wonderful. We really appreciate the fire and police for hosting that event. It was a really well-attended event and a beautiful day. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and WDET, I think they finished their interviews in the township, right? I mean, we had a big one last Thursday, I think, or Tuesday, but it was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday, and they were going to do some ongoing one-on-ones, but I think that was it for community.
About 6 or 7 in the series, of which all but the last one, I think, are now online, WDET, so you can find. I know Summer had a piece, Mike had some, Jeff Goulet had a piece, so
It was very good.
very detailed analysis of the community.
Our Canton Community Foundation, they were interviewed too.
Part of it as
Oh,
well,
good.
absolutely, yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.